Right. There have been some attempts by some Congress official historians that there were, in fact, no disputes between Sardar Patel and Jawaharlal Nehru. Just to give a message to the public that there was no fundamental alternative to the principles and policies followed by Jawaharlal Nehru. If this is done, then the work of the Congress legitimizers become very easy, so that they could prove that what Nehru thought was not his individual thought, but instead it was the thought of the time, it was the thought of India, it was the thought of Congress, it was the thought of Indian people, and no other alternative policy was possible in those years. But this is a fundamental flaw. There were in the very much in the time of Jawaharlal Nehru himself that there were multiple alternatives to what and the way Jawaharlal Nehru was thinking, whether it was on international fronts or it was economic, most importantly economic policies. So an attempt has been made by Congress loyalists to prove that what Nehru thought of economy was the only thought possible in 1950. I mean, there was no alternative to socialistic model of economy, a closed model of economy, a heavily state-owned economy. So this is what they have tried to, the Congress loyalists, they have tried to establish. But there were people who were completely thinking differently on all the fronts, whether it was foreign policy or economic policy. All the great economists, I mean, not economists, but the industrialists of India, they had tried to convince Jawaharlal Nehru that there were alternative economic model even in 1950s, which was the era of the global dominance of socialism, welfareism. Even the capitalist economies in countries like America, they were following a kind of welfareism. But in countries like India, they tried to establish that socialism was the only economic model that was possible. But if we go into the details of those years and try especially to know about the thoughts of Sardar Patel, then we find that there were serious alternatives to what Jawaharlal Nehru was thinking as the Prime Minister of India. Whether it was on Tibet, on Kashmir, on secularism, on minorities, and on, most importantly, the economy of India, Sardar Patel fundamentally differed with Jawaharlal Nehru. This is what we need to bring forward to prove that India could have been completely different from what it was pushed into becoming. Correct? So, two important differences between Jawaharlal Nehru and Sardar Patel. One, despite the Jawaharlal Nehru having promised to see Rajagopalachari that Raja is going to become the next president, I mean the new president of India, it was the insistence of Sardar Patel that not Rajaji but Rajendra Prasad was nominated as the Congress nominee for the president. And the case of Mr. Rajaji was rejected. 1. 2. The Congress president in 1951 was to be elected. Jawaharlal Nehru wanted either himself or one of his loyalists only to be elected as Congress president, but again Sardar Patel, who was almost on the verge of his deathbed, succeeded in presenting a non-Nehru loyalist as the next Congress president, and that man was Purushottam Das Tandon, who was believed by Mr. Nehru as a hardcore Hindu leader. And it was due to the efforts consolidated by Patel that none of the Nehru loyalists, but Purushottam Das Tandon, who came from the same Allahabad, Prayagraj constituency, where Nehru had his ancestral home, rather parental home, Motilal Nehru's home. But Tandon was no less popular than Mr. Nehru in Allahabad. However, Tandon could not continue for long and he had to resign. And in December 1951, Patel died, and with him, the most fundamental alternative to Jawaharlal Nehru also finished, and it became very easy for Nehru to run the administration of India the way he wanted. Although there were many followers of the view of Patel, but none was as big in the stature as Sardar Patel.